Hi, everybody. Welcome back to my 8 o'clock show. Today is a Tuesday show where you have no guests except me. So I'll be talking about, um, a topic each time. And today, I really want to talk to you about women who have really inspired me. This time when we are locked down at home, when we are, uh, when we have the time to look at our things, think about the past, think about the future, think about what we want to stand for. You start thinking of people you really impacted you, or I have been doing a lot of thinking about where does my journey begin in terms of whatever I'm doing today. How did I decide to do this? When did I decide to do this? Who has inspired me? Who are some of the women that I really think of a lot? I feel that they have really inspired me. Like last time, I have shared with you that I found. I think I told you guys I found a lot of my old diaries. Like this old book, and if you look at it, there's lots of things that I have written, and some of these are from the 70s, and some of them are like songs that I wrote. Some of them are my thoughts, my diaries, all these things. And I shared with you that when I read Anne Frank, that's what gave me the inspiration to start writing diaries when I was very young. And so like that, everything we have become, everything we do starts somewhere. That decision starts somewhere. What you shape up to be, what you do starts somewhere. And then what I wanted, somebody saying I should post them on Instagram. I don't know if some of these thoughts they're so juvenile. Sometimes, I was reading a lot of these things, your teenage stuff of interesting greeting cards that you saw, or very, very romantic things, etc. So yeah, maybe someday I'll share. But anyway, so it's been a very, last 2 weeks has been a very much of a journey inside for me to think about a lot of things. And, I have everything that I've done so far in my life has been about finding people who are doing great work, especially if they're having any problems with it, etc. Oh, my sister Swaraja says hi, hello. And, and give a platform for somebody before they become famous. Once you become famous, a lot of people want you. But when you're not famous, you are a regular person. How do we have people focus on you? That's the journey that has been very important for me. And I started thinking about, especially I like strong women. I always wanted to be a strong woman. About whether they love you or not, whether the world loves you or not. How do you follow your true north? How do you follow who you are? So when I started thinking about it, when I was a kid, I remember reading about Marie Curie, and she was one of the first women, I think, that really impressed me. And there are some other women for other reasons. Like I was very upset when I was a kid once, and I started crying because somebody told me that Valentina Tereshkova was the first woman to walk to go to space. I was very upset. I was like, I don't even remember. I was extremely young. But I decided I wanted to be the first woman to walk on space. So I was very upset that somebody has already done it. So some women, indirectly like that, but a woman that I wish she was alive and I could have met was really the story of Marie Curie. And I think I just read it in a book, or somebody told me. I can't even remember what. I was about 8 or 10 maybe when I heard her story. And somehow this image of a scientist, of a woman who was so dedicated to what she wanted to do, And it said something like she and her husband worked in this lab that didn't even have any heating. Now, all these things, I don't know if they are true or not, but I remember it as though it was yesterday. That it's the story. It was in front of my eyes of this woman and her husband working in really cold lab. They had their own lab. Nobody was supporting them, and it was hard for her to become a professor because she was a woman, and her husband had to push her case, and also even the Nobel. And I remember reading at that time. Again, I have not checked on these facts, but it wouldn't have been given to us if her husband didn't insist on it. And how amazing for her to have found someone who was very, very supportive. And then she lost her husband, and then I had this image of him crossing the street and having an accident and dying, and her losing her best friend, and how much she had to struggle to get a position, her being as good, if not better than any other person. But she never let anything hold her back, She was, Marie Curie to me was one of the best women role models for me. And I remember reading about her when I was a kid. So I felt here is somebody who's a brilliant woman, scientist, didn't get recognition till she got the Nobel or, much later. Even then she had to struggle. And then she had to suffer because she had an affair with somebody and that came out, after her husband died and all that stuff. And I really felt that, when someone is so good, if they suffer like this, what is a safe haven for them? Can we create a space for people who are really out-of-box thinkers? And at a time when they feel alone or they feel lost, can we give them a space? And then that's how Inc. was born. But the seeds of it were sown long time ago by listening to many stories like this of people who are really brilliant. Not just women, where you think of Van Gogh or anybody. They were in their lifetime, they never enjoyed their life. It's only afterwards. People say, wow, they're so great, etc. But how about giving somebody a space to be successful and be happy, or to find a community that understands them while they're alive? So that's sort of how my journey started. So, and for the journey to move forward, you need a lot of supporters. You need people who really believe in you. And I've had an amazing group of friends, my friend Asha Jadeja or Susan Wojcicki, who's the head of YouTube. there were so many men and women who supported me. And I want to tell you specifically about one woman who really touched me, because it's one thing to have friends who support you, who've known you for 10 years, 15 years to support you. So when we first started Inc. At Lavasa, I had a bunch of people who came I didn't know, and I haven't lived in India for 25 years. I didn't know a lot of people, even though they were famous or so. And there was this one woman who came to me and she said that, in a country where people say that, things can't be done, etc., you're proving that we can do things well. And, she just came, sat like anybody, didn't throw her weight around at all. I didn't know who she was. Of course, I saw her name, and then, her name is Anu Aga. And Anu is one of the most amazing people I met in my life. She's somebody who is an accidental industrialist. She was working and her husband passed away suddenly. So she took the reins and found very professional management to run the company. So the thing is, despite tragedies in her life, she is so, I don't know what's the word, she hasn't changed. I think this is how she was, when she was young, and this is how she is now. Her ideals, who she is, how she dresses, what she drives, nothing has changed. Whether she is wealthy or not, it doesn't matter. It doesn't affect her. She still drives her car and comes to pick me up. We go for walks. And she's so simple. And when something is given to her, she takes it very seriously. She was a big support for Teach for India to come to India. She dedicates all her, and she retired as a chairperson of her company. And she dedicates all her life to only social work. When I invite her to many different things, she says, Lakshmi, I'm not interested in any of those. I'm only interested in things to do with social work. She's a very clear communicator. She travels the world. She spends time with her family. And I've learned so much from Anu of what true generosity is and how wonderful she is about giving her time. And I felt that if someone as busy as her, as important as her, when we spend time, she doesn't plan anything else, and she really gives you the time. And to me, when I'm really tired, I need a place to escape, I go to her home in Pune. We spend one evening and I feel really, really rejuvenated. And this is somebody I didn't even know who she was till I started my conference. And so it's really wonderful to meet people with whom you have no history and create a future together. And so to me, Anu Aga is a great example of very, kind of a strong work ethic, very strong, family ethic, and really, a true spiritual person. She has done Vipassana, and she's very, very, generous with her time. So there are two qualities, and there are two types of women to generalize. Somebody like a Marie Curie who has really singular focus, dedicated her life, didn't get all the recognition she should have gotten despite her Nobels. She should have gotten a lot more attention, lot sooner, but still so dedicated, and she's made a difference to all our lives, and lost her life because of her research, because of exposure to radiation. And so to me, when I was growing up, there was this image of a woman in a lab coat, in a very cold lab, working, and somehow I could see the skeleton. I could see her hands. I could see, because, it's like in my mind, something about radiation. So that's the image I've had of Marie Curie. And of course, then the next category of people I met much older in my life through my professional career, who have really supported me, who've become friends, from whom I learn every day by the way they behave, not by what they say. I talk to Anu a few times a year, and we meet a few times a year. It's not like we keep in touch all the time. But every time I meet, I learn something about myself, and I learn something about work ethic, etc. So now I've talked to you about two categories of women. And, in the last 2 weeks, as I said, I've been going in a lot, finding my old diaries, reading my old diaries, etc. And I found some letters that I wrote, and I had this habit of, when I write a letter, I keep a copy of it. Especially very, very important letters I write, I keep a copy of it. So in my book, I found this letter that I wrote, and this is to my aunt. Her name is Arundhati, and I used to call her Arundhataya. Attaya means father's sister is Attaya. And she is related to me through my mother, but she is my Attaya. And my childhood was spent in Eluru, a lot in Eluru, and she lived in Eluru. And she's someone, and I've talked about her before on this show a few times. My Arundhataya was somebody who grew up in Eluru. Then she got married, went off to Calcutta, had a child, and then when my when my cousin, I used to call him Bulli Baba, he calls me Bulladna, and because I was the youngest of the three, and he was the youngest Baba I had. So Baba is your aunt's son is Baba. So I used to call him Bulli Baba, he used to call me Bulli Vadana. And So it's sort of he's the person. I mean, she's the person who really shaped me when I was younger, without me even knowing. So I used to just go for the holidays, and she would always, fill the days with lots of fun things. We would play caroms. She would do fancy dress competitions for children, and she has totally integrated herself into the Eluru community, coming from this big city in the Eluru community, and kept herself busy all day long. She managed their properties, whatever they had, and at the same time was very social, never was overbearing, never acted like the boss, but she knew everything. And she always would make you do what she wanted you to do, but as though it's something you wanted to do. It was never her idea, but she made her idea your idea. And now I look back and I'm like, wow, she was very smart about that. So I want to read what I wrote to her. And part of it is in Telugu, very little part of it, and most of it is in English. And because this will tell you what kind of a person she is and what she is. So I wrote this letter on October 3rd, 1997 to her. I was living in US at that time. Arundataya, నా శరీరం ఇక్కడ ఉంది కానీ నా మనసు సప్త సముద్రాలు దాటి ఏలూరులో పవర్పేటలో గుమ్మం మెట్లెక్కేసి పరిగెత్తుకుని నీ పక్కన వాలిపోయింది. తాతయ్య గారి మీసాలు, బామ్మ పెట్టిన భోజనం, అనసూయత్త వేసిన పూల జడలు, నీ క్యారం బోర్డ్ ఆటలు, బుల్లిబావతో గిల్లి కజ్జాలు నా మనస్సులో ఎవ్వరూ విడదీయనంత గాఢంగా అతుకుపోయి ఉన్నాయి. It's all these memories and moments that got me through the loneliest moments of my life. So in Telugu, I said that my body is here, but my mind has, jumped to Eluru, ran up the stairs, and I'm thinking of all the memories I had in Eluru. And then I also say, Sampangi pool talchukunnapudalla Eluru vyapakam vastundi. So there's a certain flower called Sampangi, and we used to have a tree in our house. So I'm talking about that tree. హోటల్కి వెళ్ళి దోశ తినడం, కూల్ డ్రింక్ షాప్కి వెళ్ళి ఐస్ క్రీమ్ సోడా తాగడం, నా అల్లరి బుల్లిబావతో దెబ్బలాట్లు, ఇంత హడావిడి చేసి మళ్ళీ సెలవులయ్యాక వెళ్ళబుద్ధి కాకపోవడం. So many things to reminisce. So basically I'm saying is that all the fights I would have with my cousin, all these things, and she would take me to the hotel to feed me dosa, which was a big deal. And only in Eluru you would get ice cream soda. Like going out to eat and drink was really a big deal. So I was saying that all these things, and then at the end of the vacation, I wouldn't want to leave that place. I'm thinking of all these things. When I heard the message that you are not doing well, the time stood still for a moment and all these scenes passed in slow motion. It was as though I was watching all these moments of my life with you in mute on TV. It is only after I grew up and came here that I started to fully appreciate what you went through. To have your husband as a best friend, have a home and a cosmopolitan life in Calcutta, to have a child and then lose your husband and move back to the home in town and raise your son by yourself, to lose and gain, to lose and to gain over and over again. My memory of you has always been of an independent woman who did not give us socializing just because she was a sorrowful widow. You always contained your loneliness and your sorrow to yourself and radiated only the self-confidence. I learned being independent and ambitious from you. Be it writing a radio play or playing the Carrom Board Championship, you immersed yourself in it. When people here ask me as to how come I'm not a typical Indian woman, I tell them that I never knew a typical Indian woman. I was always surrounded by role models like you. I learned so many things without even knowing that I was learning. I tell everyone here that the beauty of India is that everyone deals with issues without making an issue of it. You make the best of the situation and move on. When I was single, there were so many days and nights when I felt so alone and so yearned for a security blanket, for someone to put their arms around me and tell me that everything is going to be all right. It was in those moments that I fully appreciated what you must have felt like when you returned home with a 3-year-old. It was you and the rest of the family that got me through the worst moments of my life. And I thank God that I was born related to you. Ataya, I'm coming home in November. A very selfish side of me wishes to see you. I hope you stay around to take me in your arms and make me feel safe again. But after hearing your voice today, the pain in your voice passed through the wires and clutched my heart. I wanted to write this note to you to bid you farewell. I have never known my mother, but I have a shape of her through your stories. It's suddenly as though the floodgates of my memories have opened up and I'm unable to close them. In 1983, when I left India for the first time, you gave me a printed pink pure silk sari. I still have it and I wear it very carefully. Actually, I should have worn it today. Every time I open that sari, I'm flooded with memories of folded sheets, smelling of mothballs in the wooden almirah upstairs, the large bed in which you used to sleep with Bulli Baba, and the smaller bed which I used to pull out from under the larger bed and sleep on. Whenever I wrap myself with that sari, I feel as though I'm safely tucked away in that upstairs bed in Eluru. I remember the feel of cold floor under my feet, the crisp sheets on my skin, and the scent of your body. Ataya, for all that I got from you, I'm giving very little in return. All I can offer you is my gratitude for shaping my life. I want you to know that you are forever with me. I love you beyond words, and I keep you in my heart, beyond physical barriers. You have given us, even I can't understand my handwriting. You have given us all you can. Now it's time for you to relax. Yours truly, Papai. She used to call me Papai. So I came in 1997 to India, November 5th or so. As soon as I came, my dad, my sister, and I traveled to Eluru and I saw my aunt. I think it was maybe April 8th or 9th, we went to see her. And I remember coming back by train. November 13th is my birthday. So I was coming back in the train and I'll read what I wrote about her. I wrote a poem about her. And I still remember to this day on the train coming back, like you're sleeping and the train is, moving. And I remember thinking that, I don't know if there's God or what, whoever higher being, I just said, I just want her to go. I am giving her permission to go. I wanted as my birthday gift. That's sort of what I said. I still remember on that in that train. So coming back, I wrote this poem, and she was very sick when I saw her. She had cancer. She was extremely sick, and Rambabu, my cousin's wife, Aparna, took such amazing care of her. I don't know even any daughter who would take care of her like that. Her daughter-in-law really took care of her so much. So I wrote this, and my aunt was always like spick and span. Like in the morning by 7 a.m., crisply ironed sari, and we all had this Pond's powder. She would have the powder and be ready. She looked like that all day long. Very particular about how you looked. So I wrote this. She lay there with her blue blouse barely covering her breasts, with her wrinkled skin loosely covering her delicate bones, with her wavering eyes watering non-stop, with her stomach protruding as though she were carrying, showcasing the cancerous liver, with her arms moving slightly to place her palm on my hand, with her bed sores creating a bond between her body and her bed, with dark patches on her legs demonstrating the decaying of the body. She lay there with vague recognition in her eyes of my face. She lay there moaning with pain. She lay there as though she were waiting to bid me farewell, pleading us to let her go. I lay there beside this bag of bones, who once was my role model, who used to lie down beside me to tell me bedside stories. I lay there touching her face, which had bespectacled, sparkling eyes, touching her mouth, which always carried a grin, adorned by a wide, gapped front tooth, caressing her arms, which used to gather me to her bosom, feeling her palms that fed me many dinners. I lay there remembering her
as she was my beloved aunt, my tie to the memories of my mother. I lay there bidding her farewell, letting her go further away from me, closer to myself. So I wrote this, and when I went to see her, the letter that I wrote her, that I kept a copy, she had it under her pillow. So I was so glad that I wrote it a month ahead of time. So she read it, and she kept it under her pillow, so it was there. And I realized that, we look for role models, like we read about people, we read about great industrialists, all the people I talked about who were always my role models, etc. But the real models of our life are around us, and they are taking care of us all the time. And to me, I really felt that she, more than anyone else, has taught me how to look at life and its problems in its face and not hold back. She could have been a devastated wife and widow, and she never let any of that. She still would. I still remember she had that red tilak, and she would put a small dot, like how I believe, like a small dot. She never believed that because I'm a widow, I should be quiet, I should sit in the corner, this, that, etc. She was a force of nature. And I realized that part of loving someone is to appreciate everything they have given us, and also giving them permission to go. To me, it was a very, very profound experience to see someone so alive in my life, and to see them like that. And my sister Samraj also wrote she was lucky to see her before she passed away. We all, my sisters and I, we were so close to her that we all talked to her, were with her, and I felt that these women really shaped my life. And of course, through the weeks I'll share many more stories. But, I'm so thankful for my sisters, for my aunts, for so many women in my life that have shown me that true strength of a person is not when everything is going your way. Your strength really comes out when nothing is going your way, when everything feels like it's falling apart. It's kind of like what I feel right now. It's like I feel, oh my God, I don't know. The whole world is going to dogs. You open the paper, you get scared. I don't know what's going to happen to my company. There is so many things. Vipasha is saying a part of loving someone is to appreciate what they have given us and give them the permission to go. Absolutely. So I just feel that in these times I think of her, and that's why I think the last 2 weeks, all this taking out these diaries, reading, remembering people who have really contributed so much to you in your life, and taking the strength from them and saying, hopefully this too shall pass. Don't know, but hopefully this too shall pass. So with that, I sign off thanking all of you. Again, thanking the women who have always inspired me. Marie Curie from the past, someone like Anu Aga from my present, and Arundhataya, who stays in my heart for the rest of my life. And she's somebody who was where, my oldest sister is saying something. She was a role model for every one of us. I love you so much for all that you, carried her in my heart. Absolutely. And so anyway, with all that, I really, really want to thank all of you and say that find that person in your life, in your family, people who've been there for you since you were a kid, who've really given you that courage, and write to them or thank them for being there for you. And I know my friend Vimla is there. Her mom has been really a source of inspiration for me. Like that, each of us have someone in our lives that we take so for granted, but they really have changed it. So to end the story, I asked her to go as my birthday present. And on my birthday, on November 13th, 1997, we got the news in the morning that she passed away. And I think that's one of the best birthday gifts I ever got, because I felt I relieved her of her pain, and she's forever there with me. So thank you very much for listening. We'll see you back tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.